So over the last few days, I've been knocking out the Denis Villeneuve filmography. In this video, I'm actually going to cover a few of his earlier efforts, which is the Polytech movie he made, Incendies, and then a short film called, I think, The Next Level, if I remember correctly. So I'm going to do spoilers. I'm really excited to talk about all of his American filmography. Man, I have so much to say about, especially Arrival. Like, I feel like I'm gonna, I'm gonna talk for way too long on that one. Anyway, so let's start with the next level. Isn't that what it's called? But anyways, shout out to Indri for giving her thoughts on what the hell she thought was happening in this. So if you haven't seen any of these, of course, now's the time to shut it off. So the next level, if that's what it's called. Yeah, I mean, it's a short film. It's about 11 minutes long. It's on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. And essentially, it kind of reminds me of like almost like a Monty Python skit, or even the freaking, what's his name? Jean. Oh, fuck, the dude that did Amelie and Delicatessen and Children, like that director, Jean-Pierre Junot, right? Isn't that his name? Kind of felt like some of that work, like Delicatessen and whatnot, that kind of grittiness. And the reason I say Monty Python is because of that really slobby fat guy who keeps eating until he literally blows up because he has one extra mint. So there's all these big wigs that are eating around in the table, and they keep consuming and consuming and consuming, which drops them to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. I think that the symbolism of this is connected to the greed of the top and how they just consume, and they don't really give a shit about what they're consuming, what they're eating, what they're taking, and it just keeps, sending them further and further down to hell, or their morality, something along those lines. Like they stoop to another level, like that, kind of imagined in reality. So overall, it's a really disgusting movie to sit through. Like my buddy Travis, he couldn't even finish it. Like he watched like 7 or 8 minutes of it. It's only 11 minutes long, so only like 3 minutes left. But he couldn't handle it anymore because it's just like close-up eating, and it's just like people just engorging themselves, and just like close-ups of their fingers and their mouths and their teeth and and it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I also have a pet peeve of listening to people eat, especially close-up like that. So yeah, I mean, overall, whatever he was trying to say there, I even proposed that maybe it was like a veganist agenda, like the more meat you consume, the lower you sink. I mean, I don't know. You could argue a few different points, but that's what I got out of it. Overall, I mean, it's really well shot for a ultra low budget, which I'm assuming it's an ultra low budget short film like that. All right, so let's move on to the Polytech movie, which I think you pronounce as Polytechnique, technique, right? Yeah. So now this is based on a true story of a shooting in 1989 in Canada, and it's what you expect. It's shot in black and white. I think they said because they wanted to cut down on the showcasing of the blood, which is an Alfred Hitchcock psycho thing, but it's a rated R movie, so I'm not sure why. I don't know. Maybe to the graphic nature of it, but I mean, Denis does so much graphic violence in some of his movies that I'm not really sure why, but he did it how he did it, and he even got approval from the family members of the people who were involved in this, so he went and he did it right. It's a pretty simple movie. It's mostly narration and this kid who just comes to a school and shoots the place up. As I said, it's a true story. 14 people died, including him, which I don't really consider him a person anymore. So I would say 15 people, but I mean, he's not really a person. He's a monster. So 14 people and one monster. And then 2 confirmed dead after the fact of suicide because of the PTSD that was caused from it. Just, I mean, really heavy, dark shit, which unfortunately in America here, we deal with this kind of stuff way too often. Way, way, way too often. And the opening scene, I mean, these girls are just like photocopying something and then they just get shot out of the blue. And I think that's a really bold choice, but like it makes the most sense. Like, you know, it's jarring and it doesn't happen, you know, when you think it's going to happen. Like there is no build up to it. I think that is a good place to put it in the film because the audience is as unsuspecting as they are. Like, yes, the audience is sitting down expecting to see this, but you would expect it to be later in the movie. You know, so when it does hit, it's so jarring, and that's, you know, kind of how it was for them. I mean, obviously not to the degree in which they dealt with it, but it was powerful. And then the acting is all very good in it, and it's showing it from multiple different perspectives. Like the one guy who leaves the room and then him killing himself because he can't deal with it. Because I don't understand that though, because after the fact, I would feel like he would have known that girl was alive. And he obviously had a crush on her. And maybe he just could never forgive himself because he blamed himself for leaving the room and getting all those other girls killed, that he could never face her again. They don't really get into that. When they show him kill himself, at that point, you think she's dead. Like she plays dead. And then when they circle back around and they show that she was pretending to be dead, and oh man, it's so sad because as far as I could see in the scene, now this is for the film, who knows how things actually transpired within the events. But the way they portray it in the film with her friend laying there alive and then her convincing her friend to close her eyes and play dead. And then when she opens her eyes after the guy leaves, which wasn't the killer, it was her friend that could have helped. When she opens her eyes, her friend never opens her eyes again. So when she tells her friend to play dead, she ends up dying within the moment, which is how I saw that. I don't think that friend was alive anymore. So just thinking about that, of like telling your friend to play dead, and then when you open your eyes to be like, all right, time to go, it's like, she's dead. Oh, horrible. I mean, as I said, I don't know exactly what happened, but you know, it's not hard to believe that something like that did happen, and it's just so hard hitting. I mean, what compels these people? Now, this guy actually had targets. This guy actually had an agenda. It wasn't just a fuck the world, you know, left a manifesto behind, some diatribe that everyone would have to try to, decipher. Like what his rhetoric even meant. Like this guy had a very clear agenda that women, feminists were taking over and demasculizing men, and that they were trying to take over the world, and you know, they shouldn't have these kinds of jobs. And so he went after these women in these civil engineer jobs that were, you know, essentially doing jobs that men should be doing, and that he came in this school and just shot all these fucking women to death, like lined them up, separated the classrooms, had all the men leave, and then shot the women. I mean, what do you even do with that? Like, this is something that I'm always just so fascinated with. Like, I mean, he ends up turning the gun on himself, but like, I guess he thinks this is some kind of a statement. I mean, these people are sick, right? These people are sick in the head, and trying to rationalize with the unrationalizable, I guess, is futile. But I mean, when something like this happens, you can't help yourself but want to try to rationalize it, to try to understand it. I mean, that's what the fear of the unknown. That's what plagues us all. So these people can just snap at any given time, and you can't really figure out why. And like, what led him to believe in this anti-feminist agenda? And I see it all the time. I still see it here. Now, I don't see people going to the lengths of killing people as much. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying that there's not like every anti-feminist guy or girl. Is there anti-feminist women? I'm sure there is. Yeah, I'm guessing there is. But either way, you don't see them in mass numbers going out and like executing people. And on the flip side, you do see, you know, feminists, the chick who shot Andy Warhol and such. It can be corrupted on both sides, for sure. But I'm always just kind of fascinated by what kind of message they think they're getting out. Like what they think is going to happen after their display. Like people are going to be like, oh my God, I'm a feminist and I guess I shouldn't be. Thank you for letting me know you've changed the world. What a savior. It's to open other people's eyes so that they'll take up his mantle and become a martyr for the movement. Is like, as I said, it's hard to get into the head of people like this and figure out what their motives are outside of their actions in the moment, like their motives, post after their death. Humanist. How do you say that? Post. I can't remember how you say that. Yeah, I don't know. That kind of stuff just baffles the fuck out of me. And there's a moment where he's like trying to kill himself. I don't know if he was just like planning it out. So like in the scene where he puts the gun to his head and he does pull the trigger though. So okay, I guess that's him plotting it out. Like, okay, once I get here, then my end game is to kill myself. It's wild stuff, man. So yeah, I mean that's really much all I can say about that movie. It's a hard watch. And then you watch Incendies. I think that's how you say that, right? And oh my God, this is an even tougher watch. This is an even tougher watch because Polytech at least takes place in a civilized world, in a world that isn't, just completely decimated by war and by, religious ideologies that are so conflicting that these guys want to fucking murder each other. The whole like religious wars that never end and all of that, especially in other countries, there's another thing that's just like my mind, it explodes when I try to think about this stuff. I'm such a rational person. I don't understand how people get that irrational. Like, religion is all its own thing. Like, you want to believe in that kind of stuff, that's fine. But it's when you take it to the extent of murdering other people because they don't believe what you believe. I mean, how does somebody get that mentally corrupt? How does somebody buy into a belief structure like that? And like, I know how. Indoctrination at a young age, just repetition, being around a bunch of people that are, you're being told that you're fighting the good fight. Like, I do understand how it happens. I guess I just don't understand how it ever happened in the first place and how it retains. Like, it's just, anyway. So I'll try to wrap this one up as fast as I can. But these two kids, hopefully you've seen this because this is huge spoilers, obviously. And the big twist ending, of course, is the whole gut punch of the movie. And the gut punch comes twice. So it's like a gut punch, and then while you're fucking, trying to recover from the gut punch, and you're at the height of the pain in your gut, somebody comes and fucking hits you even harder in the gut. So these twins, they get notification that the will, their mother's will, is up to be read. Their mom died, and they come to the will reading, and she gives them both a task. She gives the brother and the sister the task. Each one of them is to go off and find a different family member. One is to go off and find their father, who they thought was dead, and then the other one is to go and find a brother that they never knew existed. And until they do this, until they deliver the letters that she has given them to do so, she wants to be buried face down, naked in the dirt with no headstone, which is a complete disgrace to their family and everything. So they very much want to fulfill their mom's wishes. They want to know what the hell she needs. They want to meet their father, their brother. They have a lot of incentive to do this, but the amount of shit they go through to get this kind of information, of course, is absolutely devastating. And the mother's life, as they kind of find more out about it, as we find out more, they don't even know everything. We see more of what they don't see. To think that people live like this. To think that these kinds of things happen and still happen right now as we speak. That these women and men, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not just women that are going through this. Kids, women, men, elderly, young, whatever. But this woman has a kid. Like, she has her fucking brother, or was it her? I think it was her boyfriend, somebody she loved very much, is shot right in front of her. And then she gives birth to the baby. It must have been the dad. I thought they said brother, though, in that moment. Fuck, I don't know. It was moving so fast, and I was trying to take notes. The notes are kind of for shit now, because I'm not going to be going off of any of them, because once the endings hit, that was all I really wanted to talk about. But anyways, she gets shot, and then she has the baby. She has the tattoos on the back of the leg, which are kind of your indicators throughout the movie. And she ends up going, and she gets that bus sequence, the bus sequence where the guy just shoots the bus driver, and then they unload into the bus. And then she comes out, dude, this is one of the roughest fucking scenes I've watched in a while. She goes, and there's a woman and with her kid left and her, and she goes to the bus drivers, or the exit, and she tells him, look, I'm Christian. She's holding a cross, don't shoot me. And they pull her out of the bus, and of course that woman is like sitting there like, I would have been like, yeah, this is my sister, she would have been like, yeah, me too. I mean, maybe they wouldn't have pulled that off and they would have shot them all. I don't know how that would have played out, but I would have definitely tried. I'd be like, oh, praise Jesus. Praise fucking whoever, Buddha, Krishna, whatever. Don't let me die. But yeah, so she like sees their daughter and she's like, no, I got to take my daughter too. That scene is so fucking rough for so many reasons. Okay, obviously the bus massacre itself is just awful. Then they're fucking pouring gasoline on top of the car, and they're going to burn them alive inside of there, whoever's left. She gets up, and she grabs the kid. So the mom knows in that moment that she's going to die. She has no idea who this woman is who's taking her kid. She has no idea what's going to happen to her kid in this moment. She has to let her kid get taken, kicking and screaming, from her. Then she's shot and burned. She dies thinking her daughter has hope in that moment, but of course dies with extreme uncertainty because A, she doesn't want to die. She doesn't want to lose her kid. She doesn't want to leave her behind, but also because she doesn't know who this woman is. And then so she dies like thinking her daughter might be okay, and then her daughter runs back to her like a couple seconds later, and they just shoot the kid dead right there in front of her and take the girl off and put her in a prison and then rape the fucking shit out of her. Just to like, I don't know what happens after we die, but if I guess it wouldn't really matter. I don't know. That's too deep. That's too deep of a question to even get into. But just dying thinking that your kid might be okay, and then her kid gets shot like 10 seconds later. I don't know, man. Maybe this is one of those statements where it's like, I don't even know what to say here, but hear me out. Like, I mean, maybe it's better her kid died. Like they would have taken her to one of those fucking prisons and raped her, like that little kid, and she would have grown up like that. What would her life been like for the rest of her life, which wouldn't have probably been that long? It would have been miserable. So maybe killing her was a fucking... I mean, obviously it's not a good thing, and I would rather they just not did it at all. But if you had both options, want that little girl to be imprisoned and raped and beaten and tortured, or just killed right then and there... both options are just dreadful. Both options are just horrible. I don't want either option. But I don't know. If I had to pick between the two, to watch my little kids suffer indefinitely and probably meet their demise after, and even if they didn't meet their demise, you'd probably be fucked for life and be just riddled with PTSD and trauma and ugh. This is what I'm talking about. You watch movies like this, and it's not like one of these fantasy scenarios where you can be like, oh my God, that's terrible. Like, what would I do if a werewolf attacked? Or what would I do if there was a zombie outbreak? Or what would I do if, in some science fiction thing or some fantasy thing like Lord of the Rings or something? Like, you put yourself in those mindsets and it's like, yeah, that'd be terrible. I wouldn't want to fight the orcs. I wouldn't want to fucking fight against the Klingons or, Sith Lords or anything. But that's fantasy. That's not real. Like, you can step aside and be like, yeah, okay, even though werewolves and shit are scary, they don't exist. But when you watch this stuff, you're like, this happens. This happens all the time. Like, probably happen, this kind of stuff happens. It's happening right now. It's probably happening right now while I'm talking. It's just, when you think about that stuff, that's why I understand. Like, when people are like, I don't want to watch shit like this. I don't want to fucking watch this. Like, what good is this going to do me? I'm just going to feel like shit after. Agreed 100%. I understand. I completely understand. I tried never to give those kinds of people shit. Be like, totally get it. But for me, it's eye-opening. For me, I guess I watch this kind of stuff and I think, like, I don't have it so bad. I mean, you got to get something good out of it. I would rather it not happen. But there's got to be a silver lining to things. You've got to find the pros within the cons. You just have to. And that's how we survive. Anyway, I didn't even get to the, obviously the big thing here, which of course the big reveal in the end is not only do they find out that their mother was raped and that they were a product of that. So they find out that their father raped their mother, and so they're looking for a rapist. So they're obviously not happy about that, and they're devastated by that. But then right after that, they both find out that the person who raped their mother in prison was their murdering, psychopathic, sniper brother, who is now their father. So they have a brother-father who raped their mother in prison. I mean, how do you even process something like that? Do you imagine? Do you imagine if your mother, on her deathbed, or actually after her death, gave you some quest to go on, and in that quest you found out that your mother was, lived under the most horrid of circumstances, had someone she loved dearly killed in front of her, have her baby taken from her, to have that baby come back around later on in life while she's a prisoner after witnessing an atrocity that's beyond our comprehension, for that woman to then be raped in prison, to carry those kids, for the kids to be born in prison as she's sitting in squalor and misery, for those kids to be taken from her in prison by who God knows what, and you're sitting there wondering, and then of course you're probably sitting there in your mind of like, do I even want these kids? Like, these are the product of incest and rape. Like, holy shit. And then to get those kids back and try to like raise them right and give them a life and keep this secret from them. And we sit here and we think these minimalistic things that surround us, these nothing events, are the end of the world. I mean, I get it. All things are relative, right? Your pain is relative. But is it? But is it? But is it really? I mean, I know I say that and I agree with it to an extent. But I think that whole idea of pain is relative has a cutoff point where, no, you've never felt pain like that. You just haven't. Not living here. To be in a war zone, to be captured, to have people in front of you murdered, people you love, people you don't know, to have a kid shot that you were trying to save, to be raped by your son who came back. Nobody has dealt with that kind of pain. You know what I mean? Like, there is a cutoff, like, as I said. But anyways, I'm not here to preach. This movie got me down. What a great movie, though. It's his highest rated movie. It's not my favorite of his movies, but I completely, this is total Oscar bait kind of movie. Like the more dramatic things are, the more depressing subject matter is, the bigger Oscar bait it is. And that's not a terrible thing. It's just they love tragedy. They just absolutely love when they pile on the tragedy. And you want to talk about tragedy? Fucking A, man. This is about as tragic of a movie as you could watch. And just like the acting too is fantastic. The killer in Polytech is the brother in this, which I thought was cool. And just like when he says, I'm not still understanding when his like, can one and one make one? Obviously that's a reference to like incest, and like she gets it. She, like her reaction of like when she puts together like, oh my God, our brother is our father and he's who raped our mother. And she's like her reaction is so real. And when she's reading the notes and all that, her acting is phenomenal. So fantastic performance by her. Fantastic performances by everybody. A wonderful film. Highly, highly recommended. Obviously, if for some reason you haven't seen it, I kind of just blew the whole fucking movie for you. So hopefully you had seen it. But if this just was your push to do it, yeah, I mean the performances are great. It's slow as expected, but man, the gut punch after the gut punch after the gut punch. I mean, the kids getting shot. Even that sniper scene where the dude gets, the kids get shot in the street. That one of them being the brother that's behind the car. He got shot at by a sniper, then became one. Right? That was him, right? Anyway, fuck, man. Just like, yeah, there was a little kid just bleeding out and dead in the streets. Like, this movie does not hold back. It is not pleasant to watch. So, there you go. Denis is a masterful filmmaker, and I look forward to discussing the rest of these. So let's get to them.